My name is Clarke Rigsby, and I'm honored to be in the Arizona Hall of Fame with a lot of my friends. I grew up in Southern California, in Los Angeles, and I had spent several years on the road as a musician, and I decided at some point that that was a bad idea to continue that, and I wanted to go back to school. So my folks lived here, and I remember the day that I got here was August 16th, 1977. It was the day that Elvis died. And I figured that was a sign. Now, 43 years later, I'm still trying to figure out what that sign is, but that's the only reason I remember the date. So I came here to finish school, and I went to grad school at Arizona State, and I had every intention of going back to LA, and a lot of my friends were doing well. They were in big bands that I started to play with, but I'd go back and forth to work there, and eventually I just decided that I'm cool here. I'll just stay here and do my thing, whatever it is. And when I was 16 or 17, I spent a little bit of time working in recording studios in Hollywood, and I thought that's the place for me because it's just about the music. It's not about selling booze. It's not about being in a club. It's a perfect spot. So I just started with a small studio and then just progressed from there. When I was in grad school, I was one block south of where we're at right now. And this place came up for sale, and it had been a student rental for years, and so it was completely trashed. And but my dad was a builder, among many other things, and they lived here as well. They lived in Prescott, and so we built this on, and it just progressed from there. Well, Tempest Recording is the official name of the studio, and a lot of people think that's because it has Tempe in it. It's the Tempeest. But actually, to tell you the truth, I didn't figure that out till later. Somebody pointed out to me, oh yeah, I meant to do that. So that was 1981. And so I've been in this studio since 1984. And originally, I had a partner, and we got into doing some film and TV stuff, and we worked on and off for Burt Reynolds for 10 years. And my partner really enjoyed that. I enjoyed it while we were doing it, but I didn't want to get stuck doing that. So he moved to LA, and I stayed here. And you know, I just like to make records, and I just like to deal with musicians, and that's it. And I've been at Arizona State teaching a class called Recording for Musicians for 34 years now. And you know, as long as there's live musicians, and I like it, and I'll deal with it, you know. So obviously, I mean, if the music wasn't here, I wouldn't have stayed here, you know. So there's been some great people at Arizona State that I'm friends with. Don Moyo, Lewis Nash, of course, Mike Coker, who runs the program there. Lots of young guys now, great, but originally it was Chuck Moronic, who's a fabulous musician. And you know, and I mean, there's many really excellent musicians of all genres here. So, you know, I've done all kinds of records, and you know, lots of classical records, lots of jazz records, and lots of blues records. You know, I work with Bob Corritor, who's a very good friend of mine. We've done probably 35 records here over the years. And the cool thing about Bob is that he knows all the real blues guys, you know. So a lot of the guys came from Chicago, and you know, I got to work with some serious blues players, and that's been fun. So that's just one other facet of it. But that all happened because we're here, you know. But for me, you know, you have to do the work regardless of where you're at, you know. And there's a lot of work that people just don't see, you know, and that's. But I'm willing to do that because that's what serves the music. That's my way of serving the music, at least. Strangely enough, I mean, when I just made the decision to stay here, to stay in Arizona, stay in Tempe, I thought, I wasn't really sure how that was going to go. But since then, it's amazing, the people that have been here and people that I've worked with. I mean, you know, some of my heroes, Tower Power comes to mind. And of course, I worked with Stevie Wonder and Paul McCartney, and I just finished a record with Frankie Valli, which is awesome, and he's 85 years old and he's loving it. And this is the way you want to go out doing music that you love. Well, yeah, that was an interesting backstage experience. Al Di Meola was there, who was a guitar god, you know, And Emilio Castillo from Tower Power, Joey DeFrancesco, who played on this new record and produced the record that we did with Frankie, and Robbie Robinson, who's Frankie's music director. And it was just really, really fun. And I mean, what's really great about this record is that he's excited about it. You know, I mean, here's a guy that's been having hits since the 50s, and he's excited by this record. It's really a jazz record, and he is overjoyed. And so that, to me, that means everything. I'm most proud of these guys that are fabulous musicians that have become very good friends of mine as well, you know, and it's just a way more pleasurable experience if that happens. But Steve Gadd has been here many, many times, and these are guys that are heroes to me, you know. So I did a record last year with Joey DeFrancesco and Pharoah Sanders, Billy Hart, George Coleman's been here. These are all guys that influenced me even when I was in LA. And so, I mean, I can't think of everybody. I'd leave everybody out, but, you know. And then on the classical side, I had a partner named Sam Palafian, who has since passed on, but we did 20 years of classical records together, and we worked with fabulous musicians like Joe Alessi and Phil Smith from New York Philharmonic, and you know, those are just not things that I thought would come up, but it did, and it's really been fun, I have to say, you know. So I never really asked to get rich and famous. I just wanted a life in music, and I damn sure got that. So I should be happy, and I am for the most part. I'm married to a wonderful woman, Mary Ann, who kind of completes the whole situation for me, and she's someone that understands what this is. It's not a 9-to-5 gig, you know, and so you have to have a partner that gets it and accepts it for what it is, and she certainly does that. I mean, yeah, there's many, many people that have been here. It's amazing. I mean, it just wasn't something that I thought would happen. If you look in the bathroom, that's the wall of shame, and there's lots of pictures up there of people that have. It's just, you know, it's really not that big a business. I mean, you know, it's a really kind of a small world when you think about it, and so it's just, I think the work speaks for itself, you know, and you know, if the work speaks for itself, I try not to interrupt. And so that's basically the way it's gone over the years, you know, so.